Oh, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the BFBS Pro League here on the Mondays with the League of Legends. Rudy, I saw we've normally got an ad read going on before it's our faces on the screen, but I do not care. And you know what? Sooner we get into the action today, the better. We are well and truly in the thick of playoffs as it stands, Rudy. We started off with the playing stage last week, but now we're proper into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, this is the meat and potatoes of the playoffs, if you will. Here we've got the semi-finals starting for you today. Now, there are lots of series throughout the week. We are here for you for today to cover Lions versus El Banano Banditos. We've got the Real Humans taking on the RF Paragons. That's been rescheduled for later on in the week. And then Division 2 playoffs are happening as well. So UVG and Roblo Warriors are starting a little later this evening. Tridents versus Renegades also happening. We've got lots of stuff going on across the Rift, so lots of really good series. And for today, I think we've pulled a pretty good one here, to be honest, with Lions versus El Banano Banditos.
Yeah, both these teams tied in terms of their overall series score coming out of the division play, both on 3-1, with Lions able to get a big upset up against the Real Humans to push them to the second seed. So it is going to be second seed versus third seed. And Rude, I feel like both these teams are relatively evenly matched. It wouldn't surprise me if we go the full 3 games this evening.
No, I do think that, like you've said, with that parity across these teams, we're looking forward to that full 3 games for the evening. Obviously, the last time these two teams met, we did see El Banano Banditos come away with a series victory. And I think that our expectation was that the Lions were coming into this tournament maybe with a bit of a chase on their hands for the Real Humans, for El Banano Banditos. But obviously, taking down the Real Humans last time out, they had a pretty decent showing just 2 weeks ago, and they've really put themselves back in contention for this title for Division 1. So definitely a place that I'm expecting to see good things from. And the Lions, of course, a team that have brought on coaching staff, that have had boot camping sessions, that have done all manner of things to try to improve beyond what you would normally expect. And that has definitely worked.
Yeah, and then their opponents on the Rift today, El Banano Banditos. I feel like we haven't seen them on screen as much over the last couple of weeks with just how the matchups have fallen. But I remember watching them during the division play thinking this is a damn good team, but they did have some issues. It felt like sometimes, Rude Dude, they wouldn't necessarily be as connected as you would like to be. And quite often the leads weren't necessarily converted on in the most smooth and reliable way.
No, and you know they have slight problems feels like getting the ball across the line for El Banano Banditos to a point. I think one of their large selling points that we've really harped on about, and with good reason I would add, is Race Car Worm, their marksman player down on the bot side. Typically a very reliable carry to have, sort of carry you through whatever stages of the game you are in. So feed resources to them typically is a method of success. And worth saying as well that I do think that the jungler for this team is pretty solid as well, but they are obviously going up against the Lions, who have really improved as of late, and definitely are a team that I'm looking forward to seeing match up against El Banano Banditos.
And I think the Lions for me really are a demonstration of just how much actually taking it a little bit more seriously can push you further in these sorts of tournaments, because I think we saw them very, very early on. And honestly, it wasn't particularly impressive, but something that they've done really well is come up with drafts that are super cohesive and work in regards to operating within the sort of confines of the players that they've got, but then also just sort of keeping it a bit cool, you know? I think that in these series, when you are going up against teams that are so eager and so quick to punish mistakes, I think that a lot of the time, half the battle is being able to have someone like do something to you, like lose out on a play, and it not affects you too bad, so that you're always able to counterpunch rather than allow the game to snowball away from you.
Yeah, and I think that willingness and that ability to have resiliency is the word I was looking for, is a very
Yes,
powerful
yes, yes,
skill
yes.
that I'm hoping for them to harness here as we get into the draft for game number 1. Nice and quick today, no messing around. Thank you to the players as well for that one. Obviously, we've seen a lot of El Banano Banditos, like you mentioned, Middlecott, earlier on in
Mm.
the season, not so much recently. Good to see that a lot of those regular faces, regular stays are available and there.
Yes, and I was going to mention this. We've got the Olaf and the Urgot bans coming through against Losing My Sanity in the top lane. It feels like a lot of teams have sort of singled out those champions as ones they can't allow the top laner for El Banano Banditos to pick up. But then outside of that pool, I do feel like he's had a few struggles actually operating versus the upper end of competition here in the BFBS Pro League. But of course, we need to be talking about Race Car Worm down in that bot lane for El Banano Banditos. Pop them on Sivir, pop them on Jinx, and get to that late game team fight where they can pop off.
Has been a recipe for success for El Banano Banditos. Obviously, we do get to take a look at some of the rest of the bans that are coming through, nothing geared toward that bot lane. However, Wukong, Kled, and Shen being taken off the board by El Banano Banditos. I believe the Lions here, the team with Kled, Ed, and Eddie, which is a mark of respect for why we see that Kled ban come through. But it's Mutebo very early taking a Galio, presumably into that mid lane, but definitely a pick that is susceptible if left in a bad matchup.
Yeah, but it is also a champion with a global ultimate, and that seems to have been a little bit of the mini meta that's emerged at the top end of the BFBS Pro League, where it's not necessarily about being able to win the lane outright, but being able to roam to these skirmishes and get involved in these wider map-based plays. That is an effective strategy to play out. We mentioned that Race Car Worm wants to get to a late game on something like a Sivir. He's going to have to do it on something other than the Sivir, as that has been picked away by the Lions and paired up with a Braum in the bot lane. So I'm imagining a fair bit of safety coming out from that pairing. An AD carry support duo that's going to be very difficult to dislodge in the laning phase, but also as we get a little bit later.
Yes, the synergy in the Sivir and the Braum as well, very high, as the Sivir can get 2 auto attacks down very quickly with the ricochet and the auto attack reset that comes from that. So we'll be looking at potential cleanse pickups here for Race Car Worm as we look a little bit later on into this draft. They're immediately responding with their bot lane, seeing the Sivir Braum. They know what they want. The Yunara and the Lulu as a pairing, a powerful 2 versus 2, can get going from level 1 and can really punish this Sivir if we mismanage our mana pool.
Yeah, and you see it combined with the Galio, we've got a very, very clear indexing from El Banano Banditos into Race Car Worm coming out of that bot lane. And that's a wonderful thing to do. I feel like there have been a couple of games from El Banano Banditos where they haven't given enough resources to the AD carry and they've not been able to succeed. But similarly, if you're trying to put all of your eggs in the AD carry basket, if you lose the rest of the map, then that one champion isn't going to be strong enough to overcome an entire enemy team that's fed.
And especially when we look at the draft already here for the Lions, it seems very clear what their game plan is going to be. With the Lissandra locking, you always imagine single target lockdown and the ability for Lissandra to focus one target in a team fight. I feel like the space that you can create as Lissandra is very important, and the ability to target out Race Car Worm here, definitely going to be something to keeping our eyes on. As we don't have the rest of the top side for the Lions, I'm expecting bans of sort of dive-style junglers to come through. The Nocturne's already taken off, but I think things like Vi, things like the Wukong, which we already actually see being banned away, but they are going to be really high priority to take away here, so that if this Lissandra does go in, we're hoping to limit the amount of friends that she's got and make that a bit of a solo trip and maybe one way also.
Yeah, and I think that you do need to give a couple of friends to the Lissandra, because I think that Sivir and Lissandra as a pairing are going to provide a little bit of damage, but until the hyper late game point, you're not really one-shotting anyone, and this Yunara with the Galio shield and the Lulu alongside her is going to have basically 2 times as much HP. So I think you
Yeah.
need someone that can really lock her down and also provide a little bit more of that damage as well. Maybe someone that can get a Serpent's Fang too. That could be a very, very efficient item purchase if that comes through from the Lions. So we've got a few seconds here to see what they are going to pick up. It needs to be able to counter the Yunara, and I'm not going to lie, I would have quite liked the Nasus for something like that, but it is instead going to be the Renekton. So a bit more early power, but also that Ruthless Predator 1.5 second stun when they've got that fully empowered can be crucial to take down the enemy AD carry.
It can, and hopefully finding access to that backline isn't difficult for the Renekton. Obviously, knowing that it's going to be very flash reliant, I would imagine, later on, especially with a Lulu looking to polymorph, a Galio looking to taunt and Justice Punch and all that sort of stuff. As far as peel goes, they've got plenty of it here, El Banano Banditos. The Poppy does get locked in, so the Renekton getting in just became a lot harder as well. And also preempts that idea that we're probably going to see something aggressive in the jungle. Again, I think that Vi sits very high, very pretty for me as a pick to be taken. And we will see what the answer is on that top side. Seeing the Renekton already locked in, we find Illaoi here for losing my sanity.
Yeah, which does feel like a losing my sanity champion, and Illaoi as a pick is going to have a bit more efficacy in the laning phase and in skirmishes, particularly when she finds herself in 1v2, 1v3s. Has a little bit of an issue once you get into later team fights, especially if she doesn't have the time to set up her tentacles. But she is very, very good at creating space and at splitting a team fight just by her presence. And I think when you've got a composition here from the Lions that wants to jump on top of this Yunara so badly, emphasized even more by this Xin Zhao, then I think being able to cut that team fight in two is a very, very good thing.
That's a very good point. And the way that the Illaoi ulti, the Leap of Faith, works really does exactly that. You don't want to walk through an Illaoi in order to get to Yunara. So whilst, you know, we talk about Illaoi as a very good split pushing champion, not great in a 1 versus 1, excuse me, or not great in a 5v5, great in a 1 versus 1, 1v2 even. But when we look at her as a pickup in this composition, in a 5 versus 5 setting, will also have some agency, will also have some ability to make the impact in these team fights, will allow for Racecar Worm to go a little bit crazy, because you know, we look at this composition of damage for El Banano Banditos. They don't really have a lot, if we're being completely honest.
No.
It is Racecar Worm or bust. The Poppy might build a Sundered Sky. We might see Galio take a Riftmaker, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at that top side and thinking, Illaoi, Poppy, Galio, great on one item in terms of the damage, because you've got the base damages that you're going to have, and then you kind of get over the hump. But yeah, beyond that point, you really start to get outpaced by the Renekton, by the Xin Zhao, and by that Lissandra. And I think that we've got this sort of strange dynamic here where both teams sort of lack damage in certain areas. I think that whilst the Lions have got a really great composition in terms of locking down the Yunara, I feel like there's a potential lack of burst here, especially if the defensive tools are being employed properly from El Banano Banditos. But I'm looking at them and going, well, unless this Yunara is hitting constantly, then the Sivir ricochets can start to come through and really cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always look at for specifically these Sivir compositions is how easy is it for the Sivir to actually auto-attack? And taking tanks into Sivir can actually act as a little bit more of a deficit than an advantage, because you're giving the Sivir somebody to auto-attack for those ricochets to bounce through the team. So somebody like a Galio, like a Poppy, even a bit like an Illaoi, somebody who you can auto-attack, is going to provide some semblance of danger. As it's worth mentioning there, Claire Dedenny just defending a little bit of the top side jungle, as Clanish worked their way back to start on the Raptors, but notably doing it a little bit delayed.
Yeah, so it is going to take a little bit longer for Clanish to make their way towards the bot side. Interesting to see Jiggle here going for the Storm Raiders on the Poppy, so anticipating potentially a little bit of early burst coming out from them. Obviously, that's when that rune is going to be most useful. Racecar and Solowraith fighting over the priority here at the level 1, and they have secured it. That Sivir Braum combination is going to be really good at controlling the lane as we get a little bit later. But if you want to do that early on, it's very, very mana intensive.
It is, especially like you say, for a Sivir, when you are without an Essence Reaver, it's not too easy. Whereas a Yunara takes a little bit of time, yes, to stack up the Q, but it doesn't really cost all that much.
Hold on. The XP differential was potentially disastrous there for Racecar Worm. Light is going to be chunked down by Solowraith here, but that Yunara was only a couple of hits away from going down. Very, very low health bars on the bot lane, but neither jungler is really around to capitalize.
Yeah, you can see the mana for Light already quite low. That thing that you were highlighting earlier on, that it's not too easy for Light to truly capitalize. And with the changes to Sivir a couple of seasons ago, you don't get mana back by standing in spells and catching it with a spell shield anymore. So not the easiest situation for Light to find themselves in. We'll have to try and get a recall at some stage, but probably not going to be giving it too easily, as you see on this top side, losing my sanity, getting quite aggressive here. For those of you uninitiated, never played versus an Alawi, the laning mechanics boiled down in a sentence are dodge E equals win, get hit by E equals lose.
Yeah, and Claire Dededetti is really enjoying, well, not enjoying the lose at the moment, but the whole reason that losing my sanity can do this is because of a little ward that was actually placed by Muteboat in the Raptor pit. Racecar might just get Podriguez here. He's going to flash forward. It's not quite enough damage. And Clash is moving over. It's going to be first blood for the Inara, though. The Jin Zhao fighting up against her with the double buff, but with the shielding on Solowraith, they're actually doing all right in this fight. The W goes back in. Polymorph comes through as Clanish will get one, but trades his life. Light without the flash as well. Could be a little bit risky if he isn't able to find Racecar Worm, who has the double buffs on his back. It's a spell shield. It's a boomerang blade, but it's not enough damage. It's a expenditure of the summoner spell when it really, really wasn't necessary from Light.
And a big play down on the bot side by Racecar Worm and Solowraith there. I have to credit this Lulu performance thus far. Even at level 1, sacrificing a little bit of their HP to ensure that Solowraith get, or to ensure that they get push on the bot lane. Making sure that that wave was held as best as possible. You know, making Podriguez...
we've got a fight potentially.
Yeah, tank it on up. And bot side, you're right.
Yeah, Light doesn't have that flash burnt in the previous play. And we've got Mubo rooming over. Nice interrupt there as Light is just about able to get away. It's a big taunt, but it's a tower shot going down onto the Galio. The stun from the Braum comes through as well, but it's turned around. Clanish drops down. Jiggle is still here fighting up, but Podriguez will just about escape. It's a triple coming out from Light from absolutely nowhere. And the bot lane has just been turned around in an instant.
Okay, well, you didn't quite get the red buff, but that's a big pickup for Light. Gets the blue as well, and then finds 3 kills out of seemingly nowhere here. Again, both of these teams getting very aggressive early on. This is the semi-finals. This is a single elimination, you know, lose, go home, best of 3, and maybe a little bit of nerves, maybe a little bit of confidence and overconfidence by that metric as well coming through. Have to credit Clanish for the initial audacious charge onto Mutebow, really delaying the Galio getting in and knocking up the Sivir, which then meant when they did get in range, they went for the taunt, stepped under the turret, but found themselves knocked up there, then getting stunned, and the damage coming through from Light was really consistent. Able to put a lot of DPS down, found 3 kills in it, goes back to base and gets a BF sword as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be really good news for the Sivir. Facing up against that double-killed Yunara was going to be a pretty nasty prospect, but having a BF in your inventory makes everything a little bit easier. 5 minutes in, it's 3 kills to 4. All of the action has been focused around the bot side of the map, which is where Clanish is heading at the moment to pick up Drake number 1.
Yeah, Clanish is still level 4, which is a little bit concerning. You get that off of your full clear, which is usually done... you know, by 3.5 minutes. so this is a very behind Xin Zhao currently, but that's obviously because of the efforts that they've made to try to make some early ganks happen. And yeah, I mean, this is quite right here. We do need to keep an eye on this. He's got Smite, so should win. But yeah, a little bit of support from the mid lane are never going to go amiss here.
No, not at all. There we are, Clanish. And it's an Ocean Dragon as well, so he's going to get some of that mana and that HP back. Everything is going to be Absolutely A-okay. If we're looking at points of power, we've still got Losing My Sanity really growing that lead up in the top side. And it does make you think that the Renekton is going to have a real hard time operating in this game, because if they're not able to find advantages early on and they're against a composition that can really negate a lot of their ability to gauge, what is Cleded and Eddie meant to be doing?
Flash W late game is my only answer to you there, which, you know, means that the early game of a Renekton has been completely neutered, which is a massive win.
Oh dear.
For Losing My Sanity. And topside, yeah, you're right.
Oh dear, he is going to get that stun actually onto the Poppy, so low, but not going down as Mubo is going to tank up the tower. 3 blue health bars towards the top lane, all blinking relatively low. Planish is in the area, but isn't going to go in. Tell you what, Cled and Eddie, really good job staying alive there. That could have been disastrous for the Renekton.
And I will extend my answer to absorb pressure as well. A really solid performance on that dive there. Cleded and Eddie making a bit of a statement, actually, to say, yeah, you know, you might be putting me down a little bit in this early game, but I can still survive. We can see here in the items as well, just building specifically towards an Illaoi with that Bramble early on. You get a lot of armor in, and also you get the grievous wounds, which means that the Illaoi insane 1v3 healing montages are going to be slightly mitigated here when you apply really any physical damage to the Renekton, which again, as Illaoi, you just always do.
Yeah, I do want to just shout out, because of that BF sword and inventory, we've seen Light getting a much better shove in the bot lane. It has actually freed up Rodriguez to go for a bit of a roam on the map here with Void Grubs spawning up. And it looks like the Lions are going to be able to pick those up too. And I do want to be clear, Rude Dude, I think that this is a team that at the start of this tournament, I wasn't saying were going to be a favorite, but they have been performing very nicely for themselves. They've got a clear game plan here, and they've got a jungler who's a little bit caught, but they're going to be able to turn it around onto the Poppy. Jiggle gets 2 of them away, but it's a wonderful ult from Rodriguez to set up a kill for Cled, Ed, and Eddie. Now we've got the rest of his team coming over. Planish just flashing over the wall and falling down. He's going to trade his life for that of the enemy top laner, though, as Steve picks him up. Cled, Ed, and Eddie falling low. There's a dive in the bot lane. Race Car Worm picking up the enemy ADC, but Light trading it back. All told, I think that the Lions are going to be pretty happy with how everything went down there.
They get 3 grubs. The Civic gets a 1-for-1 trade with a decent wave. And again, I think that was all 3 kills picked up by against El Banano Banditos. So everybody that went to contest that ended up losing their lives. Big win for the Lions, as you say. Yes, they lose out on Clanish. I think they lost out on Rodriguez as well. But the solo laners stand strong, and they are able to find a winning fight on the top side, get the objective as well. Looks like El Banana Banditos did manage to secure 1 of those, so a 2-for-1 trade in the grubs for the Lions, which again is still worth it, but not a bad trade by any means.
Yeah, Light with the gold from that kill in the bot lane has been able to pick up the Yuntao, matched by the Kraken over here on Race Cartworm. But I feel like these items just sort of elucidate the roles that these champions are going to have to play, right? Race Cartworm is all about killing the guy in front of him. That's what this Yanara needs to do, whereas Light, I've still got a load of time. I still could be patient in this game, because I look at those early game champions in the Renekton, the Jin Zhao, and the Lissandra to a certain extent that need to be sort of helping me get through this early game. They're doing reasonably well for themselves.
We'll see Jiggle spotted on 2 wards here, but a little bit of hesitancy.
Yeah, I really like that positioning from Rodriguez. It's going to throw up the shield and stay alive. And Light might be looking for a re-engage here. Race Car Worm is able to dodge away from the wind, becomes lightning. In comes the 3-person tour into the stun as well. The Jin Zhao throws up the ultimate, and there isn't enough damage from El Banano Banditos. It's 2 more kills going over to the Lions. Kill number 5 for Light, and they might even pick up a tower here.
Yeah, those couple of grubs going to help them out doing a little bit of work on this tier 1. I do think here that maybe they leave this up and they give themselves more time to play in this lane. It is very favorable for them at the minute. You've got a Drake spawning in about 15 seconds time, so it'll be good for them to find that as well. Light does get first brick, 560 gold between the plate falling and the first objective going their way as well. Now, I do think that overreaching would be sticking around for this dragon, whereas previously, you know, you might have been able to go for that dragon after this, but They might lose out on it. We'll see, though, as we get Light immediately back to base another BF sword and indeed the crit cloak in the invent as well.
This is going to be a very, very scary Sivir when she makes her way on over to the south side of Summoner's Rift. We do have a dragon being started up by Jiggle, who is still just on components of their item, whereas Clanish has got the full Sundered Sky. If Lions can find a fight here, it should go in their favor. That's a dash forward from Mutebo. That's a decent ultimate to knock away the Xin Zhao Taunt going down as well, but it looks like there's going to be a sacrificial golem in the river. Light now on a killing spree as Steve doesn't want to stop this fight. Jiggle just about able to get away.
And look at what's happening in the mid lane. A 1-4 dragon trade, and you're getting inside track for Light on that mid lane turret. He did take a lot of HP, so he's going to need to recall the second somebody shows some presence, but has a bit of free time to secure yet more gold, more plates going their way. I'm now taking a quick look up at this top side as very, very low health bars for the most part. Say that as Cleded, and then he does find a Q through the wave and get back to full HP, but actually all of that time in the mid lane gives Light even more gold, the full turret falling there as well.
Yeah,
and another wave.
I'm fairly certain they were just unopposed on that mid lane tower for a couple of waves. We've still got a minute and 30 until all of those juicy plates fall away, and it wouldn't surprise me if Light just heads back towards mid lane to keep exerting that pressure. As Claire Dennetti is having a fine time on the top side, but Jiggle is here to try and make it a little bit more difficult. The Renekton is falling so damn low, heals up a little bit with the Q, but the slow from the Lulu just keeps him in range. Jiggle is able to get one back, but still, it's the Lions running the show. 13 minutes in, we've got a 3,500 gold lead for the team on the red side.
Of course, looking at their scaling later on, it's not awful. Again, we highlighted that El Banano Banditos were looking very heavily and will hold the point, losing my sanity.
Yeah, going for this fight, popping the ultimate as well. Clanish is just trying to buy a little bit of time, but he's really not enjoying the experience of fighting up against an Alawi. He's going to go back in, flashes into the bush to get the vision denial, and the killers in the bot lane. It looks like Jiggle's been able to take down the Sivir as well. Okay, El Banano Banditos, you are down, but not out of this game by a long stretch.
Yeah, two-man band there. Solar Wraith and Jiggle moving around again. Found a kill on the top side. Now move down into the bot side and pick up a kill onto Light. A shutdown for the Poppy, who, like we said, is going to be picking up a Sundered Sky here, and we'll see how much further that build goes towards Mad, or towards actually doing some damage, or if we see some tankiness coming from here. Rodriguez, I think this is a bit bold to go for holding this wave, but they've been granted that anyway.
Oh no.
Jiggle again fishing. Steve, I think you might have been okay to recall.
No, ships in the night. No, not ships in the night. Steve is going to get caught out there. Has managed to deny a charge into wall, pops the ultimate, and just about gets the claw away. As Mupo ulted in on top of Jiggle for that play, really greeding for Lissandra, but ultimately not able to take her out.
I think that's a sound play if the Lissandra self ults, but the fact that, you know, Steve had the combo down, was going to E away off of the claw. Really nice little pathing play by the mid laner for the Lions. And a little bit of a reprieve there, maybe something that just needed to go their way after 2 consecutive plays have gone quite poorly, maybe even 3. With Clanish losing out on that 1v1 on the top side, learning the hard way that you don't really ever 1v1 Alawi if you can help it. But gold worth mentioning and worth highlighting, those big items that are being hit. Light on the Infinity Edge already in this game, 15 minutes in, that feels really, really solid to have. And I do want to call out here quickly that we've got Rodriguez going fully indexing into the Sivir's safety as well.
Yeah.
With that Knight's Vow, the Solstice Slay as well, a lesser seen support pickup. But whenever you find some damage, some sort of CC, be it a slow, be it an ulti, it grants movement speed to the targets around you. So, to your allies around you even. So even without Light having to pop that ulti, 1Q from the Brahmin, you get a mini Sivir ult in effect.
Are you telling me that my support has Sivir ult and a 10-second cooldown?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not
mini
a fan
Sivir
of that
ult,
at all.
Yes.
Getting a little bit silly. Let's pop a Chiralias as well. Losing my sanity, going quite aggressive here onto Claire Dedanetti, who is pretty much on item parity with them. We've got the plated steel caps and the black cleaver versus the Eclipse and that Bramble Vest. So I think in these wider skirmishes, losing my sanity is going to have a bit of utility for their team in terms of the damage shred, whereas Kled and Neddy is going to be a bit more favored in that pure 1v1. Herald's going to be picked up here for the Lions as Steve is in a little bit of trouble down towards the bottom lane. Not too close to going down though, and that wave is quite a way away, so Jiggle and Solar Wraith will just back off. We've got a Dragon hitting the Rift in 10 seconds. Would be Drake number 2 for either of these teams. Not something that you need to be dying for, and not something that you need to be giving up mid lane position like this for. It just looks like Lions are going to take another tower.
Yeah, they haven't really put any effort here, the El Banana Banditos, into defending mid lane really at all this game, it feels like. So that's a little bit of a loss. Light there did pop on the hunt. I don't know if it's for a fight. Looks like it.
Yeah, they have found the Poppy. They found the Galio as well. It's a big taunt going down from Mubo, but the Galio just explodes! The double knockback from Jiggle, denying any kills going in favor of the Lions, but sends them straight over towards that Dragon that El Banano Banditos have got no business contesting.
You say that. Jiggle fishing, still looking to get in.
No way is he going to be able to get that Dragon. Loses his life as well. A little bit over-aggressive, a little bit unnecessary there from El Banano Bandito's jungler, who hasn't been able to have the impact in the game they would like.
On this Poppy, it's all about finding those high-profile targets, and specifically for this game, a little bit of a change-up to the script, I think, for the Poppy is, you know, your job here is to protect your carry. We've got Race Power Worm now sat at 2 items with those Fiend Thunderbolts being picked up. Not the same power spike as a Sivir with an Infinity Edge, but definitely something to keep our eyes on. But it's about making sure that nobody gets access to this Yunara. If you can do that, then great. Obviously, if you can't, that's a bit of an issue. And again, harken back to the points I made earlier about the fact that that Light doesn't really need to auto-attack the Yunara to do damage to her. Just if there's somebody in the way, can use them as a taxi for those boomerangs and get the damage down there.
And you're sort of in a weird position here as Racecar Worm, because Yunara as an AD carry is definitely a hyper carry, but I feel like she wants to be going forward. She wants to protect herself with her own mobility and her dashes and basically have the entire team following her going, yeah, we're going to keep you alive, mate. So they need to go forward to deal the damage, and I think they can actually 1v1 Light at the moment, but you look at the rest of the composition around that Sivir, and it's so difficult to go, no, I'm the better AD carry, I'm going to win this one out, because by the time you deal with the problem that's the Sivir, you've got 4 other problems that you need to deal with.
For the time being as well, outside of just the champions that are problems, Kled and Eddy, I think wisely here, dashing away.
Yeah, popping the ultimate as well. We've got a trade of those of both top laners. Has to flash away to keep himself alive. No summoner spells aside from those unleashed teleports available for our top laners, who have managed to maintain, I would say, a reasonable expectation of top lane etiquette this game. We've got 19 minutes on the clock and neither tower has gone down yet.
No, and that's to do with the team as well. You know, we would have expected, given the way that the Lions have played this out, that they might move Light up into that top side. I don't know, dodging away here, but if they move the Sivir up here, there's a lot of gold to be found. 5 plating still there and ready, and they've started to realize this as well. The one area of the map where we can find some gold is in the top lane. Why don't we move our big, strong marksman up there and try and make something happen?
And if you're sort of not familiar with competitive League of Legends, the reason that the Lions are able to sneak towards that top lane, yeah, they don't find a play, is because they shove the mid lane first. They're now going to be able to pick up this cannon wave. They lose a little bit of gold and experience, but they had that opportunity to try and make something work on the top lane. Weren't able to get anything this time around, but they're going to run exactly the same play, get a big shove in mid, and then you could start to move around the map and apply that pressure.
Recall came through just now by Kled and Eddy, which effectively gives top lane over to Light if they want it. Again, this is something that I think they can look at, something to review, is the fact that this top tier 1 turret is still standing as proudly as it has been really this entire game. Push the mid wave, move to the side lane. That's a really easy way to try and get things moving in the game. And El Banana Banditos have sort of recognized that they don't have the foothold to contest that. They've actually moved Losing My Sanity down to the bot side to try and get a little bit of an advantageous position in a 1 versus 1. As the Lions should be looking to try and make a play on this top lane, You know, we've now got a Drake spawning in 90 seconds time, so the window not quite as great if they want to try and secure some objectives. And they can still play this slow. It is still a possibility, but I think it's giving an opportunity for Racecar Worm to do exactly what he does and get fed, carry damage later on.
Yeah, Mutebo, I think you are dead, my friend. Able to get the taunt off of Claire Dead and Eddie, but they are gone out of here, and that top lane tower is going to be dead as well. So, mission complete in terms of getting all of those outer structures down. The Lions gold lead hasn't grown as quickly as it was early on, still just hovering around that 4,500 markers. Mid lane tower goes down in favor of the El Banana Banditos to close that up once again. And hold on, this is one way to accelerate a gold lead if you can pull it off. But El Banana Banditos are already in the area.
Use TP on Claire today to get down to the bot side to defend that tier 1 turret, but obviously Mutebo, no TP, and was dead. Recognizing and respecting here Jiggle and the Poppy ulti, the Keeper's Verdict power, could be something to be sort of dissuaded from a neutral objective by. But now they've taken a lot of damage. They've taken all the poke.
Yeah, hold on. They've just been able to get the engage straight onto Light. That Sivir is out of the equation, as is the support as well. It's a massive engagement on a switch from El Banano Bandito. Steve going in, though, trying to take down Racecar Worm, and just one-shots the Yanara. They're going to be able to take out the mid laner in trade that was losing my sanity, is now fighting up against the Clanish and Cled, Ed, and Eddie. Flash away from the Xin Zhaoers. The Galio goes forward to try and find a little bit more damage, but nothing there as it stands. He's going to find that dash in, but they're not able to find a reliable engage onto this Renekton or the Xin Zhao. Dragon is going to be going down in the meanwhile, as it's a taunt under the tower. It's a shutdown onto the Renekton, and it's that Xin Zhao falling off the board as well. 14 kills to 15, 2 dragons to 2 dragons, 1.5 thousand gold in it. This is not too bad for game 1.
No, it's not at all. And with both of our marksmen here, those hyper carries in the late game, now back at item parity, we're in for a banger here, Middlecott. It's all about that positioning by these great marksman players down on the bot side, and they're going to know that.
No, Light, you just can't do that. You cannot step up this far forward. It's going to have Podrigas there to just about help them out and keep them alive, but that's the second time in a minute where there has been a very, very egregious positioning mistake from Light, and suitably punished again.
Yes, and this is what you can sometimes run into as a marksman. I feel this for Light, where you're strong and you want to flex those muscles on people, but it can't come at the cost of recognizing where your team is, what the enemy team can look to do as well. As Light walks forward there, so deep into mid lane, none of his team are particularly around to support. He has to flash away. Rodriguez gets in there just in time. And I think if you're willing to take that fight with the 2v2 with the Braum, then yes, but you need to have that planned ahead of time. Because if you had got the Unbreakable between yourself and the Yunara, you probably win that 2v2, but definitely not something that had been clearly commed and clearly executed on either. So, Light, you know, I would say you get one, the mid lane play where you get slammed into the wall. You had that one. The second one I'm less accepting of for you. You get a third, that could very well cost you the game.
Yeah, and when you are going up against Racecar Worm, whose sort of bread and butter is consistency in these late game fights, as a neutral, as someone with no skin in the game, would tend to maybe favor the Yunara in these situations. But of course, then we are 75% of the way to the 4-item severe win condition. And even if Light is making a couple of positioning errors, I'm going to be real with you. 3 Ricochet autos in a late game team fight from a Sivir seem to be enough to win any situation that she finds herself in. Baron's still up and available for a little bit. We've got a Dragon in 2.5 minutes, which would be a sell point for either of these teams, but they don't look overly concerned with it as it stands.
Yeah, the big objective right now is that Baron. You've probably got another minute of dancing around up there before you actually start to turn your attention back down to this Dragon. I'm curious about what both of these two teams are thinking at the minute, because this has been a real back and forth affair. Jiggle respecting the power of his Galio a little bit, maybe too much here, but does step up and secure that objective, secure that pink ward, which is a very valuable tool to be taking down. But with this game being quite back and forth, as mentioned, maybe a little bit of tentative breaths by these two teams, not necessarily wanting to make the mistake that cost their team game number one, having recognized that they've both got really strong chances at this one.
Oh, Kled and Eddie taking a boatload of damage there, losing my sanity. Being really, really disgusting to this Renekton, and Jiggle just there to pick up the pieces. Evening up that kill score well and truly, 15-15 now, but action in the bot lane precipitates a move towards the Baron on the top side, and that is exactly what the Lions are doing. Clearing out some vision. Looks like they're going for a bait.
Yeah, they're looking to fake it out, but that blue ward's going to see that they're not in there. I don't know if Steve just got spotted. Now they know.
Oh, Mutebo's very squishy, though, on this Galio. That's the Keeper's Verdict being charged up. Honestly, a little bit unnecessary there from Jiggle. Is going to go back on that shortened cooldown as the Poppy is going forward into the enemy team. And honestly, I'm not sure that this is going to be working out for you. Light is going to get knocked up. That's a massive wild growth into another knock-up from that Galio. Planish jumps on top of Solar Wraith, and Race Column is trying to do damage from the backline. Light is so damn low. The Yanara carrying this fight, going forward for the double. It's a teleport in from Kled, Ed, and Eddie. A full HP Renekton getting involved means that Baron is not on the cards, but El Banano Banditos take that team fight by the skin on their teeth.
And this was a 4 versus 5, remember, the Renekton TPing in, indicating that actually, if the Renekton was there, that would have probably been a wipe for the Lions. As it transpires, though, still a one-team fight, still a denial of the Baron attempt by the Lions, and firmly closing up that gold lead. It is deep, it is solo, but you've still got numbers.
You've also got a lot of HP to play with here on Losing My Sanity 2 item Ilaoi, as we've got Jiggle around as well, able to find a pick onto Kled, Ed, and Eddie. The Renekton, though, so damn tanky, as that Ilaoi is being melted. Just about gets the ultimate, a couple of hits of healing, and Steve goes into the enemy team, and we have had a pause at a potentially pivotal moment, Rude Dude.
Yeah, that's not great. Obviously, again here, we are seeing some of the power that Ilaoi has right there. I think that Light got hit by Ilaoi E and then died. So that's problematic, obviously, for the Sivir, and probably means that this dragon should be forfeit. Now, I don't really want to say too much. I don't know how long this pause is going to go on. Don't know what the pause was for. Hopefully we'll be able to get some sort of clarification in the relatively near future for you all. But yes, to say that this is a tense time is a bit of an understatement. We're resuming play as would be. We will see another micro pause from here, but
yeah, not before we've just seen Risco and been completely one-shot by Steve and Kled, Ed, and Eddie. Planish turning up at the end, though, still fighting up against Losing My Sanity. This Ilaoi persisting for so damn long. Big taunt from Mupo. A load of damage onto Rodriguez as well. And somehow the Ilaoi stays alive through it all. El Banano Banditos lose their marksman, but they still win the fight.
Yeah, that was a complete one-shot onto Risco. Let's be honest, Steve has actually done a pretty good job at isolating out Yunara and making sure that they can't particularly play the game. But this time round, in this fight, that was actually a fully fledged, well, I say fully fledged, but they did have all 5 members contributing at various different interpoints, came out much more favorably for El Banano Banditos, and that's because they're able to take it when there was no marksman for the Lions there. Light does so much damage on this Sivir, but if they get caught by really a single skill shot, a single spell, it feels like their doom is all but certain. We got to see on the top side fight around the Baron that they were able to handle a 1v2 versus Mutebo versus Jiggle. In a 5 versus 5, I truly do worry for El Banano Banditos if they can't get on top of Light, but the positioning of this Sivir has been called into question a couple of times. They are currently a little bit under leveled, level 14. When we look at the rest of the map, level 18 on Losing My Sanity, dealing damage to this Ilaoi will be difficult. And really across the board, down on levels versus everyone else.
I can't believe you're criticizing an AD carry for being a lower level than a top laner.
Yeah, but 4 levels lower when you're trying to do damage to them. I can give a little bit of clemency. You know, Race Car Worm versus Claire Dead and Eddie, I wouldn't have called that out. That's a two-level
that's
reasonable disadvantage.
As Claire Dead and Eddie actually still has his top lane tower, but he might not have a health bar to defend it with for much longer. He's able to get the stun down onto Jiggle, and with that Dominus popped, is pretty fine to just stance up against the enemy team at that tower.
Turret, guys. It's not
I think you're probably going to need to give this one up here. Losing my sanity, able to get a pull down onto Light, and once again, this Sivir being caught, leading to a fight in favor of El Banana Banditos. Double knock-up coming through. It's a wonderful interrupt from Clanish, but look at the Galio diving under the tower, taunting them up and setting up his team for the fight. Still only a 1-for-2. We've got Steve moving over through the jungle, looking for a pick under this tower, potentially. Isn't going to take the claw, though, and it will be a forfeit top lane tier 2. El Banano Banditos over the last 5 minutes have just seemed to have their heads screwed on better.
Yeah, they have, and some really clutch tests of spirits. The E for the Alawi has really decided this game in the later stages of it. Losing My Sanity has landed 2 big pulls onto Light, which has costed him his life twice. No jungler means no smite, no contest, and Better than Eddie here going to lose the Sterax as well.
I mean, it's just a really disturbing amount of damage, and in those sorts of situations where you're by your Todd running away, you can kind of deal with the tentacles slamming down, but in the middle of a team fight, in the middle of a skirmish, it's just too many things to keep track of, and Light was really set up for success in the first half of this game. They're still in a decently strong position here on the Sivir, but it has just felt like when it's counted at the really important, decisive stages of this game 1 of the series, they have been found a little bit lacking. Still, though, a lot of structure standing in favor of the Lions, but that is just standing gold. Oh my god! Okay, Mutebo's just doing stuff like that, I guess.
Just one-shot enemy Lissandra makes sense. And now, obviously, with the Baron at their backs, and I feel like Steve was kind of one of the quiet pieces holding this comp together, constantly causing a threat, constantly being an issue. Obviously, they do still have the Sivir here ready to try to get rid of some of the wave. Racecar Worm piling in through that bot side. There's a little bit of a window here where you might be able to get rid of 1, maybe 2 of these minion waves, but as soon as that Yunara starts to step up, that turret is really going to take the damage, probably just fall in an instant.
Yeah, Mutebo over there on the minimap, moving over to push in that tier 2 in the mid. Of course, should his team need him, we'll be able to join with the hero's entrance towards the bot lane. But with Racecar Worm in the area, these towers are going to be falling so damn easily. Although, I will say El Banana Bandito is making a little bit of a meal of a push this time around, not able to grab another tower, and that Baron has only got a minute left on it. They may not be able to get any more gold from these pushes.
They did try to make a play in the mid lane as well. I don't mind utilizing 2 lanes, but it actually turned out that the Lions defended pretty valiantly underneath both of those tier 2 turrets. We saw Light move over to deal with the Galio. Can't really threaten a Sivir under the turret. If you know, playing Galio, maybe a quick flash taunt can give you a snap combo that they're not expecting, but with the Drake spawning in 15 seconds here, it is Soul, and Clanish goes forward on the hunt. Pops, these are massive cooldowns to not get anything from.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Lulu flash, which is something, I guess, but Solar Wraith is going to be absolutely fine running around, just causing a little bit of chaos and keeping his guys alive. This is Mountain Soul if El Banana Banditos can pick it up. The Lulu just steps too far forward. That's a load of support off the board here, but Racecar Worm could just open up, and the damage is honestly obscene. There's no time for Light to stack up with the ricochets because everyone is already dead. Claire Dead and Eddie in a 1v4 situation. Steve's going to turn up to just about keep him alive, but the solo laners for the Lions are the only ones left. Got a couple of blinking health bars for the Banditos as they start up the dragon. They are looking for Soul. Lions looking to deny.
Yeah, there's no ulti here for Steve, so it's a one-way trip if you take it in.
Oh, the flash rod for Clenity. It's going to find the stun onto Losing My Sanity. If they take out the Alawi, the Dragon Soul is still going to go over. This Renekton, though, is dead as a dodo. Can't get over the wall. Gets the stun going down, actually, onto Jiggle. It's a load of damage from Lissandra. Not quite enough to finish off the kill, though, and here comes Solar Wraith. You're running into the enemy jungle. You are running into the danger. It was a nice attempt at a play. Maybe Steve is going to get out with this teleport, but still, it's El Banano Banditos who are going to be much, much happier with the last 2, 5, 10 minutes of League of Legends.
And rightfully so here. That Guardian Angel for Racecar Worm creates such a disparity in this fight. The Yunara fell. There was damage down. The backline got in. They got access and they took out the Yunara, but she had a second life. She had another shot in this team fight. And with that, was able to come back and start dishing out the damage once again. I do think both of these sides making just a couple of errors, maybe a little uncharacteristically there. When Solar Wraith dies without using the ulti, when you see Racecar Worm drop down to the GA, maybe unnecessarily, but at the minute, El Banano Banditos leaning on their slight advantages, leaning on, I would say, Mutebow quite heavily here. This Galio again, quietly doing a lot of work, and now we see Clanish in trouble.
Not too much trouble, too much trouble for the Jinzhao. But yeah, Mutebow, I think, has added a bit more damage to this composition that was sorely needed. I mean, we saw what he did to Steve a couple of minutes ago towards the bot lane, but really just helping El Banano Banditos get over the line in some of these fights. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, Rude, dude. It doesn't feel like El Banano Banditos are doing anything specifically. Their buttons just feel like they're a bit more impactful.
This is the nature, really, of having the Lions draft a composition, which ultimately does get outscaled. We kind of highlighted that they've got very good mid-game champions. They look great on the Lissandra, the Xin Zhao early on. Doesn't look too awesome as you move into the super late game, which is pretty much where we are reaching with Baron spawning, with Elder spawning. That's as late game as we end up getting. The Poppy value in a late game situation as well, independent of gold. The Poppy can channel ulti, the Poppy can generate an advantage.
Yeah, and when you've already got a lead, that is really disgusting. Oh, it's a wonderful move into backline, but Light has been able to avoid it for the time being. Buying a load of time and dealing a load of damage here on the Sivir. It's a shutdown onto Racecar Worm. The Yunara is out of here, is losing Vitality. It's going Sycamores onto the backline to try and take out the Sivir, but they are not going to be successful as they drop down. And El Banano Banditos just get a little bit too excited, lose 4-0, and the Lions march down the mid lane.
And when double sums are available, Light is able to stay alive in this crucial fight. It's a slight overextension from Jiggle and Mutebow. They really thought they had the angle, but the Sivir was able to sustain it. Now Jiggle in a 1 versus 5. Can't get to the wave, can't get access. Game number 1 here, Middlecott done and dusted.
And El Banano Banditos must have thought they had this in the bag, but the Lions do what they always seem to do and just win Game 1, going in their favor.
You have to give credit to those divers, the team that we just highlighted as maybe having a little bit of problems as we move later on into the game. That the problem would be access, but you know that with the Yunara's dashing forward, you're handing access to those backline members or to those people trying to get into the backline on a silver platter. And unfortunately there, for Racecar Worm, he gets caught by the Lissandra, by everything really.
Yeah.
No amount of healing, no amount of damage is going to be able to protect you from that. And I'm just looking forward to getting to watch this back on live and see actually what happened in the backside to make sure that this Yunara got absolutely obliterated.
Well, it just felt like a little bit of over-aggression from El Banano Banditos, and I think that's something that we've criticized them for before. These leads don't necessarily always get pushed forward in the most economical, in the most efficient, in the cleanest way, and this is a game where they were looking pretty set, had all of the pieces in order, but power of a late game Sivir, man. If you don't kill her in a team fight post 35 minutes, you can just get shut down. I mean, this completely changes the dynamic going into Game 2. I was ready to be sat here going, what do the Lions need to change in order to get this series back? But now I'm going, well, hold on. If you're on the side of El Banano Banditos, you just got to do it all again.
They have, and importantly, again, to remind people that I think going into that fight, there was about a 6k gold deficit for the Lions, but they had that late game. They had the insurance policy of the Sivir. They the El Banano Banditos got to a winning position. They got to a stage in the game where they should have won the game. I think that the rough pill to swallow here is that it is just execution that cost them. And it is just, well, we stepped a little bit too close. We didn't have all of the things that we needed, right? Race Car doesn't have flash. We shouldn't really be taking that fight. Not needing to be forcing it. Instead, they did. They thought that, like, you stepped too close again. And then importantly, he gets away, is able to survive, and dish out the damage he needed to.
Absolutely. When you don't kill the Sivir, you tend to lose the team fight. We are going to be going to a short breakdown, but you do not want to go anywhere. Game 2, this series coming up in a few moments.
Mate, you're lagging. What do you do?
Good enough can cost you the game. So stop settling. Wifinity is built for real life on base, so you can game without compromise. Posted somewhere new? Take your Wi-Fi with you, no hassle. Get fast, reliable Wi-Fi with Wifinity. Use code BFBS50 to get 50% off the first 3 months.
Mate, you're lagging. What do you do?
Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the BFBS Pro League here on the Monday with the League of Legends. I'm Middlecott, joined by Rudude, and we just watched the Lions do what the Lions do up against the El Banano Banditos. A best of three where El Banano Banditos looked like they were going to secure the advantage in game one, but the Lions turn it around in one team fight and mean they are poised here at match point heading into game two.
Exactly. And the game itself, not as clean and cut dry as maybe Lions just won. Don't get me wrong. If you looked at the game 5 minutes in, you might have expected them to win this. If you'd looked at it at 10 minutes in, you'd probably expected it as well. And then we got to the mid game and a lot of unsure footing for the Lions there. Definitely an area of their game that needed a little bit of work. Lost out on a few dragons, lost out on a soul as well. But like you say, they got Sivir to a late game. I went back and watched it back. Podriguez with an insane amount of brawn value, just puts a shield up, blocks Yunara damage, lands an ulti on the Yunara as well. And that really set up the dominoes to begin falling. Light with some good positioning as well. I think both of these bot lanes had a very solid game number one with different moments creating different advantages for the enemy.
Yeah, I will say Racecar Worm sort of I feel like he was doing it well until like that one moment where it needed to be locked in, he wasn't able to do it, whereas Light was having those struggles, but then when he actually needed to clutch it out, fair play to him, was able to do it. But I think something that was really interesting, Rude Dude, as we're moving towards champion select for game two of this series, is we are in a sort of fearless situation, and we saw so much priority in terms of the construction of the drafts and the gameplay from these teams be towards the bot lane. Do you think there's any reason to move away from that situation now that we've got a couple of these hyper carries off the board and maybe these teams have sort of seen a little bit of what the other's going to be doing?
I'd say no. I think that if you've got a game plan, you should probably stick to it. And I think that both of these marksmen have clearly proven themselves as focal points to try to build your composition around. The only real counter to that I might be able to give you is that losing my sanity on the Alawi actually did do a lot of great work through that mid game and actually was a large reason for why that mid game was looking so good for El Banano Bandito. So there's maybe an argument to give them a little bit more control, a little bit more agency in the game. But I think we've seen Racecar Worm carry too many games for us to say you didn't carry this one, you don't get another chance, period. And I think that Light as well proved enough in that game that they can step up when the time actually mattered and that they were able to come away with that win.
Yeah, I think if there's any critique that we can really give to El Banano Banditos is that in terms of engage for their team, it did feel like it was a little bit of a reach quite often. We saw Jiggle sort of having to flash in, go for these heroic charges on the Poppy, not quite working out. And then the Alawi's not going to lock down anyone. That Galio is so much more responsive as well. So maybe a composition this time around which is able to be a bit more proactive as well as reactive. I think that's what we saw from the opponents that meant that actually the Lions were able to come through and take the victory. But I kind of agree with you. There's not too much wrong that El Banano Banditos did in that first game, apart from losing the fight right before a Nexus exploded. So we're going to be jumping into game two, the champion select, at least not expecting too many surprises. Bans are likely going to be the same. Shen taken away, and Olaf and Urgot going to be denied from losing my sanity.
A wise choice, I would say. And we'll see if the remaining bans end the same as well. Obviously, we take a look back at game number one. It was the Nocturne final ban and then the Wukong by both of these sides, respectively. So we've got a lot of focus up towards that top side. What we've seen a lot of in this BFBS is that you will keep those bans the same, regardless of sides, regardless of any sort of tactics that need to be thrown in either direction. And then you'll look to play out the draft a little bit differently based on those fearless away champs. Again, I do think that something like a Vi is something that I would look towards, as you do see a little bit of a switch up here with the Silas being taken off the board. That does leave the Wukong open, maybe suggesting that they're looking for something that a Silas typically does well into, maybe a Malphite, maybe an Alistair, something like that. Yeah.
I was thinking we're banning Silas, so therefore we're locking in Malphite.
Yeah.
Feel like Silas is kind of just Malphite with a little bit of a better kit, but that Nocturne being taken off the board, again, not really a surprise. Continue to see this focus down on champions with a little bit of global pressure. Reminder, we are in Fearless. This B1 was a full AP Galio last time, and do you know what? It did pretty all right for itself, but we aren't going to be seeing that. The Wukong was not banned this time by El Banano Banditos, and they will pick it up with that B1.
Yeah, that's the power that they have here with that first pick. Whatever ban they elect to drop, they can just pick up for themselves. Now the question becomes, what is the response by the Lions? Plenty of picks still available. Trundle, a really solid answer typically into the Wukong, sapping its AD, winning out on those trades nice and early. But it's a return back to the classic here with the Jinx and the carrying coming through down on the bot side. Light locks in the Jinx and the Thresh to come through as a partner. We saw this pairing back when it was Jinx Aphelios meta, and the Thresh was getting traded between the two marksmen. But
Ash Seraphine. Yeah. I think we just throw Ash Seraphine. I was going to say it's a bit of a bold choice here from the Lions to lock in the completed bot lane this early on, because for El Banano Banditos, Race Coworm and Solar Wraith, you just lock Ash Seraphine. We've seen them play this duo before. They're going to outrange this Jinx Thresh combination a fair bit in the early game and should have the damage advantage as well. So you need to get a lot of usage out of, in particular, the Lantern here if you are playing Thresh in this game for the pick to have value.
Yeah, using that Lantern to hopefully get the Jinx out of the ulti and maybe even put the Mel in the ulti with the rebuttal there to hopefully turn the tides of that Encore back into the enemy's faces. Mid lane locked in, though, does now mean that the Lions can protect this Mel. You normally look for things that outrange it. Mel, a relatively mid-range champion, can be outranged by some picks in the mid lane. So they get rid of those stable ones. The Orianna removed here. Maybe Syndra gets taken off the board. We have seen Mutebow return to the Twisted Fate, though. I know that TF into the Mel is a pretty awful matchup, given the telegraphed nature of a gold card.
Yeah, no, you just got to like get really good at S-keying the gold card auto attack, baiting that from the Mel, and then you're gonna be okay. But no, don't think you you should ever intentionally put yourself into the TF side of that matchup. I do think here for the Lions, they've got a few pick-based champions, but there's nothing that's going to be providing you with a real solid engage. I feel like every time we see Thresh go forward for a hook in a late-game team fight, he's dead before the hook even comes out, and that's going to be even more likely when you look at the amount of CC options that are on the side of El Banano Banditos. Ash Seraphine is a terrifying lane, but once it gets into team fights, it's equally disgusting.
It really is. It doesn't really fall off. And I heard a phrase earlier, which was, if you play versus Ash Seraphine, you either win early or lose, because the Seraphine scaling is just kind of crazy. The healing that you get through that is genuinely something to be feared. And I think that if you do get into the late game throws up against this Ash and this Seraphine duo, then you might end up finding yourselves in a little bit of trouble. Obviously, they have got a decent response themselves with having a Jinx in the late game, so there is an opportunity for them to maybe work out quite well, but I wouldn't be putting lots of stocks in. Yes, we can go late and it will be absolutely fine.
Okay, I think this is all right, though. I think this is fine. The vibe being locked in to provide a bit of that more reliable, firm, easy engage here for the Lions. And, of course, Vi locks up the target. Jinx gets that first kill and then can reset all over the rest of the team fight. Does look like the Lions are going to be retaining that last pick for a top lane counter pick, which they will be doing up against a Mordekaiser, as it's Tristana locked in for the mid lane, I believe, here for Mutebow.
It definitely looks that way. As far as, again, answers to the Mel go, not one that I've seen before, but I can definitely understand its place. Marksmen not typically known for their single spell projectiles that are really high value to retort, but nice to see that we've got a little bit of a flexibility, I'd say, from Mutebow here to make some difference up in the mid lane. A Yorick comes through, and that versus a Mordekaiser feels pretty good. An immobile champion that doesn't particularly auto-attack too quickly. The sort of go-to things that I look at as a good answer to the Yorick, or for the Yorick, rather, in that top side.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the sort of microwave potential that losing my sanity is going to have against those ghouls. A lot of the damage from Yorick comes from that, as well as the Maiden post level 6. But I'm sure that that we're not going to be seeing anything too silly towards the top side. Having a look at both of these compositions in their entirety, though, Rudu, the Lions are 1-0 up in the series as it stands. What are they trying to do with the picks they've locked in here to push them to that 2-0, that match point, and to the next round?
I think that this is again going to need to be a big performance out of Rodriguez on that thresh, right? You've got the massive amount of potential to move into this late game and truly carry these team fights if you land big hooks onto those marksmen. I mean, there were umpteen montages of Thresh flaying Tristanas out of their jump before it was cool. We're going to need to see something a little bit like that happen. Again, if you get a big pick onto the carry, that's when it's going to be successful. And I do think that a lot of this comp lives and dies by this Thresh. So much of the engage comes from it alongside that Vi. Hopefully you can get that pairing going, but it's such a difficult champion to pilot in the late game and such a difficult champion to outweigh the value of a Seraphine on that if Rodriguez can't do the do on a Thresh, we could very easily see El Banana Banditos force us here to a game number 3 just off of pure scaling and team fighting.
Well, is Rodriguez going to do the do, or are they just going to be do-do as we are on to the Rift for the second game of this series? Just a reminder, El Banana Banditos looked like they were going to win game 1 up until they lost it, and the Lions continue their run through. They are 1 win away from victory in this series and extending themselves through into the next round. Losing my sanity, opening up here onto Claire Ednelli. This is something you can do on the Mordekaiser. Very, very strong level 1 against pretty much everybody.
And especially versus Yorick as well, if you can cut off access to the wave, prevent them getting to level 2 where they get the ghouls and the auto attack reset coming down. You know, you obviously are going to have a pretty decent run of things in that 1v1 skirmish. Worth highlighting here that Claire and Eddie has opted for the Ignite in that 1v1 top lane matchup, so we'll be looking to get a little bit aggressive once we see a little bit of parity in those levels.
Yeah, but this is also something we saw a fair bit of last game. Losing my sanity, constantly pushing the waves in under Claire and Eddie's tower. But Claire and Eddie not falling down too much. Light looks like they're going to be falling down, flashes away, but still ends up dropping. And now Rodriguez is going to be going down as well. It's a double kill for Race Car Worm, scarcely 2 minutes in.
All right, top side, losing my sanity.
No. What?
Ignite, baby.
Oh,
don't
baby.
mess.
Claire and Eddie with an unlikely solo kill, given how that early lane was going. Gets to level 3, I guess, and just completely turns it onto the Mordekaiser. That's the advantage of having the combat summoner spell. I like that things are getting nice and aggro early on in this game, Rudy.
Yeah, and I don't even think that it was level 3 that incited that, as, you know, losing my sanity, moving back to the lane is still level 2. Probably just a nice land of the Yorick E, which causes the slow, allows for that chase down. Don't know the rune choices for Claire Dead and Eddie, but if we've got approach velocity on the Yorick, I think that's a very based rune to take. As you land the slow, and then you're easily able to chase people down, land them in the Dark Procession, and look to snowball off of that. Obviously, this Yorick is going to need to do a lot of great things through the early and the late game here. It's sort of a switch up between these two top laners. This is in game number 1, he played a Renekton, which was more geared toward looking to do that team fighting. Whereas on the Yorick, I mean, we know full well that Yorick is never looking to group up if possible. It is split push, and if I can, a little bit more split push.
I'm having a little bit of a look at Racecar Worm's inventory at the moment, as we've got a freeze being generated here by himself and Solar Wraith, which is lovely for Light and Rodriguez to play into. But it feels like they almost got that double kill too early in the laning phase, because they've got some bits and pieces, but none of the items that they picked up are really going to break open the lane. We've got a move towards the top side here from Jiggle, but Claire and Eddie is way too healthy for any attempt of dive to come up from the wound shot.
So there is... Oh, hold on. What? Oh, no. Okay. So something very bad has happened down here.
Yeah.
There's a ward in the middle brush there, which spotted Clanish make this gank happen. and Racecar Worm still falls prey to it. That is a disaster for El Banano Banditos.
And I'm going to be honest, Rude Dude, at least it wasn't as bad as what happened last game, but that's the second time that we've seen early advantages come the way of El Banano Bandito's bot lane, and then them just not respect, honestly, the potential for the Lions to try and give them a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, I've now got this double kill. I must win all future plays. It's not actually the case here, and Racecar Worm learns that one the hard way. I will say this comes at a cost for Clanish. He's going to walk into his top side, and lo and behold, there are no camps there for you, buddy. Which, you know, if you've bailed out your bot lane, then great, but it's obviously going to be putting yourself behind for it, and the gold overall, still just a modicum of favorability for El Banano Banditos here.
Yeah, I will say, this is something that we saw Clanish do in game 1 as well on the Xin Xiao, so I think there is a slight stylistic element here of, well, we need to go and rescue this bot lane again, and if it means that I have to sacrifice a couple of camps towards the top side, then so be it. Vi is a great champion to get fed, especially when you're going for Hail of Blades, but fundamentally, if you Q and ult the enemy AD carry at any point in the game, you're kind of doing your job.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a good thing that there are a lot of champions that get that MO as well, right? We talked about the Poppy in the last game. I press my ult, I've got value. Malphite, I press ulti, I've got value. And it's good to see that we've got a couple here as well. Notably as well, Solar Wraith and Racecar Worm. They've got press ulti, hopefully, if they land. I have also done my job. As we return to what is relative normality here for both of these sides, we're getting to the stage of the game where in the mid lane, Steve can just handle these waves with relative ease. Looks like we are seeing Mutebo look to get aggressive on that angle, but not with too much success. Top side has again become quite mundane. Slight advantage now for Kled, Ed, and Eddie, but I feel like this is a rarity where losing my sanity has lost early and is now actually just farming and accepting that.
I mean, they are post 6 on a Mordekaiser, and I tend to see post 6 Mordekaisers do some pretty dirty things, especially against a Yorick who I believe can be robbed of their maiden by being sent to the Death Realm, which is not a fun experience, I would imagine. Jiggle towards the top side, full HP, has level 6 available, but hasn't been able to find any impact with it just yet.
No, quite right. I had forgotten that interaction. It's very good that you bring it up, because Mordekaiser was an old school answer to the Yorick for that exact reason. Similar in nature to the Cho'Gath, where the Cho'Gath can ult and remove the maiden through feasting on it. The Mordekaiser, like you say, can ulti and just pretend that the maiden doesn't exist, but still got Sheen, still got Ignite for Kled, Ed, and Eddie, and I think that for the time being, that is keeping losing my sanity at bay. But as we get a little bit later on here, Middlecart, into this game to highlight what these teams are looking for, I think both of them are looking for these front-to-backs. Unfortunately, without any true tank, the Mordekaiser and the Yorick are going to try to act as that front line similarly. The Vi and the Wukong are going to look to do the same, and then create space for their carries to thrive, right? Where we've got 2 AD carries for El Banano Banditos. We've got the Mage and the AD carry for the Lions, both of which across both sides, both carries going to perform admirably in that late game. So again, looking at that execution, who can find access? Is my Vi pressing bar on a correct target? Is Wukong getting double value from the Cyclone, or is it just a bit of a disaster?
I will say that I feel like in sort of skirmishy, more split situations, El Banano Banditos would be slightly favored purely because this Ashe and the Seraphine are able to sort of play at a measured range relatively well, and the Wukong, the Tristana, the Mordekaiser are very good at going forward in those situations. It doesn't feel like the Lions have necessarily got that sort of stability. A start up on these Void Grubs and a trip to the Death Realm here for Kled, Ed, and Eddie, who is currently without their wife. Not a fun position to be in. They're going to pop out of that now and have to flash away as Mutebo made their intentions known towards the top side of Summoner's Rift. So we've got a flash down on Kled, Ed, and Eddie. We've got some Void Grubs in the back pocket of El Banano Banditos, and Steve wasn't able to get enough of a push down onto the mid lane to get any plates.
She's going to steal away what is, we'll call it 5/6 of a Raptor camp there, with the big one going their way as well. But all of this seemed to precipitate from a bot lane play. We didn't actually see it happen on our screen, but both ultis from Racecar Worm and Solar Wraith did end up happening. And that's what happens when you don't have your flash or your ulti in the top side. Quick pickup for the Yorick, and we'll see what damage they're able to do to the structure afterwards. But outside of that solo kill, worth highlighting that because the Ashe and the Seraphine found a good trade onto Light, he had to recall, which meant that Clanish tried to come down to hold the wave with Rodriguez, which allows Jiggle to go up to the top side, get the grubs, allows a little bit of a move from Mutebow as well. But seemingly all of that is slightly eviscerated by the fact that there was a solo kill for the second time this game for Cleded and Eddie.
Yeah, that Yorick is really starting to get a little bit scary, and you're absolutely right. It's the desync in the sort of flash times, the desyncs in the ult as well is really important. And losing my sanity is now having to lane up against Yorick, who has got that fully completed Trinity Force 10 minutes into the game. And you can see what this Mordekaiser is going towards, trying to get that Dusk of Dawn for a little bit of sheen action and a little bit of sustain for himself. But if you're behind, it's so difficult to get yourself in a decent situation again when you're in top lane, especially up against a champion like Yorick.
Yeah, and obviously, I think I've highlighted this before on the show, but Dusk and Dawn, such a trash item without, like, as components.
Yes.
It's not like an Infinity Edge where you're getting value from the BF sword, value from the pickaxe. Like, these scraps are exactly that. They don't work for you in a 1 versus 1 particularly well. Now, this is an area of the map that the Lions are weak in. There is a 1k gold lead largely focused on that top side. This 4v4 that might happen in this bot side could be even, should be favoured for El Banano Banditos, though.
Oh, I mean, Jiggle's going in, but he's a little bit isolated at the moment. That's a decent encore, but it just gets sent right back at Solar Ray. Flow secured there from Light as Mutebow is going to get caught up and just invited into the waiting arms of the Lions. Light able to pick up their first kill of the game. A decent amount of damage traded back, but I don't think that El Banano Bandito should have gone forward there.
It's entirely possible that that might not have been the best play. And maybe it would have been a good play.
What?
Yeah, that's not fun.
Oh, it's just, do you remember the crazy cat lady in Simpsons? That's
Yes,
what it feels
I do.
like. It's just throwing them and losing my sanity constantly. Oh, this is horrible to deal with.
That's brutal. Yeah, 2 levels down and just an auto Q killing a melee creep. That's a sign of very good times here for Cleded and Eddie. So the Lions here now with leads really across the map. The Jinx now at parity with this Ashe. Now that is going to stop happening when that call comes through. There'll be a slight advantage there. But I think this Yorick, even in a 1 versus 2, I think I'd favour them. Oh my god, the rockets!
Oh, that was just a little bit too stylish. That was just a little bit too stylish. Kill number 3 for Cled, Ed, and Eddie. Light could have very easily picked that one up, and there's no defense on this top lane tower. It's just going to be falling down. If this Yorick was not scary enough, he has just been inflated with the full gold value of all of those top lane tower plates and the first brick gold bonus to boot. Cled, Ed, and Eddie is very scary at the moment.
And now this is hopefully going to become a masterclass from Cled, Ed, and Eddie in top lane dominance, right? This is something that I think a lot of top laners can struggle with, is they've got a lead. How do I make that stick? How do I move it across the map? As the Yorick, you've got 2 options. We highlighted previously that Yorick doesn't want to group. That's option 1. So what's option 2? Keep forcing my will and my advantage on the enemy in the top lane and hopefully continue dumpstering them. Quickly, though, I do want to highlight this is a Voltaic Cyclo Sword vibe for Clanish, and that's not something that we're used to seeing.
It's a load of damage, but a little bit less survivability, sort of playing into the shotgun nature of the composition that the Lions have built for themselves. Light is just going to be able to get away, and Jiggle popping that second hit of the Cyclone there, I believe. Hook going down onto Solar Wraith, but not going to turn into anything. We've still got a couple of minutes until the next dragon is up, so no real reason for these teams to fight around here apart from just being a little bit silly. Clanish caught out with the arrow, with the charm. No hope of escape. As Rodriguez flashes away, lovely root up there with the Seraphine as the Thresh goes down light. Throws out the ultimate, but isn't able to get a kill. Race Car Worm shuts them down. Steve moving over to the area, but it isn't able to pick up a kill. And it was sort of like the animals onto the arc there, Rude, dude. One by one, falling down. As losing my sanity, fighting up against the maiden in top lane.
Famously not how Noah's Ark's animals went on, by the way.
One pair.
Yes, one by one, they went onto the arc.
They each went one by one twice, okay? It's not a difficult concept. That's flash forward from losing my sanity. Claire and Eddie matching it and locking the water guys with a cage of their own making. He's able to get the Q off and turn it around. Oh no, if you're 0-3 fighting someone that's 3-0, it's just going to turn into 0-4 versus 4-0. That's what happens 99% of the time. It's what's happened here. Claire, Ed, and Eddie continuing to flex and grow their advantage.
Fool me 4 times? Shame on me.
Stop fooling me, bro.
Yeah, I'm a little bit foolish currently, unfortunately. And well, it is going to now lead into another objective take, but this time in the favour of the Lions on this top side. Grub's unsuccessfully dominated by this Yorick, which does give a little bit of a reprieve, I will say, to El Banana Banditos. But the Lions get this Herald, and oh look, it's in the Yorick's pocket.
Oh dear. Now, the question is, what lane does Kled in? No, still top lane. Still top lane. We're not spreading this advantage around the map. This guy isn't an AD carry. He only knows how to destroy towers in top lane. Lovely hook coming down from Rodriguez, but they don't quite get the CC onto Solar Wraith. Still, though, pulling the heal and the Ash Arrow out of there for just the Q is a reasonable expenditure for a basic ability. Hot lane tower being defended. TP actually here from Steve. We do have a dragon on the board, and it looks like the Lions are pretty keen to contest this one.
Well, let's see. Let's see how keen they are. Is Cledid and Eddie going to TP down as well? I think that would be my indicator that they are keen. I would like to think, though, that if I'm playing Yorick thematically, I'm putting that Herald down, and then I'm sending it into the turret.
Oh, lovely interrupt from Rodriguez, denying Jiggle the engage. We do have Clanish trying to kill the enemy bot lane, but if they turn around, they are losing the fight. Dragon is going to go down in the Lions' favor, but they've already lost 2 and might lose a couple more. Steve dropping low as it's in the top lane. I wonder what's going on there. It's Claire and Eddie getting a kill onto losing my sanity. And the Yorick needs to keep doing this because the last couple of fights haven't looked too good for the Lions. This split push threat is keeping the game alive.
Yeah, it's not all that they've got. Steve is still quite strong on this Mel here. 1-0-2 working towards a Shadow Flame next item. But yeah, it's definitely been a ropey bot side thus far for the Lions. They do obviously have a massive disparity in this case in the top lane, but unless it wins them the game, which currently it still can, I'm not trying to say that it won't, there could be some problems ahead.
Problems don't sound great here for the Lions. Will want to up in this series. They are on match point. If they win this game, then they set themselves up with an appearance in the grand final versus the winner of Real Humans and Royal Navy Paragons. Clanish looking for an engage onto Race Car. They go all the way under the tower, but they're not able to get anything with it. Nice defensive lantern to keep Light alive. But Clanish just getting a little bit too greedy there, and every time you do that, it doesn't work. It just feeds more gold into Race Car Worm, and we do not need more evidence of what this AD carry can do with a lead.
No, we don't. You're quite right. Now, I do wonder, is he able to take down Raid Boss Yorick top lane? That's the that's the concern for me, because genuinely at this point, I'm not convinced. Could very easily be Cleded and Eddie coming out and really swinging that spade at whoever dare go near them, and doing so quite menacingly, quite domineeringly almost, in a way that won't allow for a fed Ashe, a fed Tristana to actually make any impact.
Yeah, I mean, Racecar Worm, he is 4-1-3 right now, but he has made the mistake of locking in the AD carry position, which means he is currently 4 levels down compared to Kled, Ed, and Eddie. And that's not just damage, right? That's all of the stats that levels are going to grant you. The bonus armor, the extra HP as well. It's all going to be working in favor of that Yorick. And losing my sanity, he's still in a relatively strong position if he has to 1v1 Light, but this Mordekaiser probably can't 1v1 anyone else.
You know, I think I disagree, to be frank. My odds are that you could probably 1v1 Pogriges.
Okay.
And to be completely honest, probably has a chance versus Clanish as well.
Yeah.
Which is a sad commentary on the power of top lane. In 1 versus 1 scenarios, but somebody who we know could probably 1v1 anybody on the enemy team without too many problems is indeed Kled, Ed, and Eddie. But I do like this move from El Banana Banditos. They've swapped away the Mordekaiser from the Yorick, obviously having a pretty tough time of things. So,
hello, Light's been caught out into the arrow, and he just dies like that so quickly. It turns from a poke-based situation in mid lane to a you're dead situation.
And again, we have to look at those summoner spells. Light has flash. A conscious choice, you have to imagine, not to expend it. And we'll see if that's, with good reason. Looking at the dragon, 1 minute 16 away, so maybe just looking to save that summoner spell for the more important objective. But this Ashe is getting scarily strong at this stage. We'll be able to go back to base, pick up the Infinity Edge, and then have an entire item up over their counterpart.
Yeah, and whilst if Kled and Eddie is able to lock this Ashe in a cage, they're not going to have a fun time. Jiggle searching for Steve, not quite able to find a complete engage as the Mel does an unreasonable amount of damage. Okay, buddy, sorry for existing. Steve has got 2 items unlocked, and he's like, yo, I'm one-shotting people as well.
We are shadow flaming. TP's been used. No, it wasn't TP, never mind. Sorry.
No, it wasn't. He's just walked behind him, and Kled and Eddie has put losing my sanity in a very uncomfortable position. It's a 6-0 Yorick, it's an 0-6 Mordekaiser. It's a dive under this mid lane tower that is going to result in Solar Wave steps. And you know what? Maybe a couple more kills as well. Somehow turn around from Racecar Worm to take out Clanish. It ends up being a 1-for-1, but the objective goes in favor of the Lions. And hold on. They're going to be doing the Baron as well. I don't think El Banano Banditos have got anything left in the tank to stop this.
Yeah, I think this is the one reason Kled, Ed, and Eddie came to this top side. The only thing that could enhance the split push further was a little bit of juice from the Baron as well. 6-0 on the Yorick. Made the impact felt. I mean, made it up to the top lane via their little legs there. Was expecting to see them stick around in the bot side until that turret was taken, but not to be the case. Now with that Baron, an assault on top lane almost imminent here.
Dragon is just going to be taken away in the nick of time by Jiggle and Racecar Worm. And the Lions, they are starting to taste the finals, I can imagine. If they are able to get this Baron and push it through, take down the enemy Nexus, they are setting themselves up for a spot in that grand final next week versus the winner of Real Humans, the Royal Navy Paragons. But El Banano Banditos are not done yet. Racecar Worm has 3 items on the Ashe. He is in a position to carry, and Mubo is in a position to go forward. He needs to be a little bit careful, though. The flash from Jiggle getting onto the backline, getting multiple knockups, but the damage just isn't connecting. A Root going down onto Racecar Worm prevents him from even getting into the fight. Root slow coming through, the ultimate from the Mel. It's 2 dead members of the El Banano Banditos, and all that while, Kled, Ed, and Eddie is just wrecking face in the top lane. Racecar Worm is the last one left on his team, but he will not be alive for much longer as the Maiden siphons the life right out of him. And the Lions will look to push through all the way to the final.
2-0 on the evening. A series of cataclysmic catastrophe here for El Banano Banditos. And the Lions continue their winning ways. 4 wins in the last 2 weeks, back to back to back to back. They reverse swept the Real Humans, and now they've claimed vengeance over El Banano Banditos, who they did lose to earlier on. But now they find themselves in the final with a chance to, for maybe the second time, and only the second time in history, beat the Real Humans.
And this is what is so tantalizing to me about that matchup. If it is the Real Humans, if the Paragons aren't able to do something completely crazy and take that series, is that throughout the entire history of this league, all 8 weeks of it, we've been looking at the Real Humans as these are the guys, these are the best team. This is the best armed services team that exists in the UK. You can't top them, but the Lions, with that reverse sweep, and now this 2-0, which especially in game 2 was looking really, really dominant. Are we starting to talk about this team as a potential favorite going into that final?
It's entirely possible here, and we also have to remember that, and this could just be a product of only getting information from this by the team themselves, but the Lions were a team that have been very vocal in this community as well. For example, them having Coach Moose come in and be an active member of the team, working on their really everything with them. The boot camp that they did in the division stage. Just because we haven't seen that from the rest of the teams doesn't mean that they're not in the background, but it doesn't feel like that's the case. Whereas in the early stages, we saw Lions really struggle. The addition of boot camping, of a little bit more focus, has really, really leveled them up.
Yeah, and I feel like there's just so much cohesion in this team. I think we really saw it again in that final team fight. Again, we've got El Banano Banditos going forward, reaching for this engage, but the Lions are so comfortable just kiting back, recognizing we don't need to take a stand here. We don't need to go for this hard fight. We could just move back into safer territory and then strike back again. And of course, it's a hell of a lot easier to do that when you've got a Yorick on the top lane who is destroying structures like nobody's business. I've really got to say, exceptional performance coming out from the top side in this game. I think that it was well played generally by the Lions, but that Yorick was just on another level.
Yeah, I mean, Cleded and Eddie here, I had a rough game number 1, right? On the Renekton, didn't do anything awfully, wasn't egregious, but got beat down by the Alawi, really, just objectively. And to be able to bounce back and in a counter matchup as well, right? The Yorick does just simply, in theory, lose when ultis come online at that level 6 marker. Maybe the slight advantage that you found earlier on was enough, but being able to completely decapitate losing my sanity in the top side, like it just wasn't close. 0-5 coming out of the laning phase. Not really close in any way.
Yeah, and I think that whilst we are singing the praises of the Lions, we need to give the flowers to El Banano Banditos as well. I would say pretty decidedly, after this game, the 3rd best team in the league. And that is no criticism at all because of the level that we've seen coming out from the likes of the Real Humans and the Lions as well. Race Car Worm, kind of the first player that I've fallen in love with in terms of just the way that they play League of Legends in this, and I really hope that we see more from them going forward. I think El Banano Banditos can be really happy with what they've done. Yes, it can be a little bit cleaner at points. Yes, maybe the execution in teamfights can be a little better, but fundamentally, they've made a very good account of themselves over the course of this split.
They have, right? Up until week 6, maybe, they hadn't lost a game, right? So they started out incredibly well and had a very, very dominant beginning. Now, obviously, here it comes at a bittersweet ending. They're not going to be able to go to the finals. They're not going to have that opportunity to play up against who we're assuming is going to be the Real Humans and, maybe fight for that final. But when push came to shove and they had to earn that spot, they weren't able to do so. It was the Lions who have really leveled up over the last couple of months. And El Banano Banditos who can go away holding their head high.
Absolutely. Well, I believe, Rudid, that is going to be it for us this evening. Unfortunately, no BFBS BG on the cards for this evening. But we do have our grand final of the League of Legends to look forward to next Monday. I believe there might be some weird stuff going on with the schedule potentially to ensure that all of the teams in that final have their full rosters, which I think is the only fair way to do it. It's awful feeling to get to a final and then you can't field half of your guys for whatever region. So really down for that. And honestly, Rudid, I'm thinking whatever happens in the matchup between the Real Humans and the Paragons, the match that we're going to have on next Monday, hopefully, is going to be so damn spicy.
It is. It really, really is. And that's certainly something for us to look forward to. We do also have some breaking news from Division 2 as well.
Okay.
This just in. The Royal Navy Tridents were playing up against the Renegades. And actually, the Tridents have won 2-0. That's not necessarily the breaking news. But the Tridents also had a perfect game. That being a 20-0, so not a single kill picked up. And it was, in fact, the Renegades really losing out in that one. The Tridents coming away with a perfect game, secure their spot in the Division 2 finals, which is a really good look for us and for them as well. UVG versus the Roblo Warriors, delayed start this evening. We don't have a result for that. And obviously the Real Humans versus the RAF Paragons was rescheduled till Friday. So we don't have all of the results, but we've got the best of the rest for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, well, whilst we may not have the results will be had by someone in an accessible form somewhere. So please don't rely on us purely for all of your BFBS Pro League knowledge. We are not unlimited founts of such knowledge. But
join the Discord.
Join the Discord. Right. That is going to be it, though, for us this evening. Rudu, thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolutely banger series today, although I would have preferred 3 games, as always. Thank you so much to both the teams that we saw hitting the Rift today. El Banano Banditos, commiserations to yourselves. And congratulations to the Lions for securing your spot in the finals. Shout out to all the people behind the scenes. Tangerine, maybe Owen. I'm feeling a little bit generous. But most of all, thank you to you guys in Twitch chat on the stream for watching you make this possible. I have been Middlecop. We will see you next week for the grand finals.
Out here, every millisecond counts. And in here, every millisecond counts too. Never let delays ruin the action. Upgrade your Wi-Fi to Wi-Finity. Use code BFBS50 to get 50% off your first 3 months.